course, you always talk about vintage or non-vintage. Now, where does this sit? I can tell you it's not a non-vintage. Sorry, it's not a vintage and it's not a non-vintage. It's somewhere in between because we call it trio vintage. The base wine comes from 3 different vintages. Now, the latest one, as far as I know, is coming from vintages 2009, 2010, and 2012. So you might ask, so what? Well, I think if it's a newer vintage, it gives you a lot of fresh fruitiness. You know, you still have that fresh fruitiness in a newer vintage. For a rather older vintage, you get more cooked fruits or more ripe fruits characters. So I think it's a good balance of ripe fruits and fresh fruits characters when you have a trio vintage. I also think that for a trio vintage, that means for each batch, it doesn't necessarily mean consistency because you're only using 3 batches. Some brands, they have many base wines where they can really keep the consistency, that's fine. But there are some people out there who want something different, something new. So I think if you use trio vintage, 3 vintages, I would say you have consistency, but you also have surprises. Because if we're drinking this, and if we happen to have a new batch, which means something new is added, but something older, something that's been used has been kept, I think, you know, you see some similarity and differences. So I think that's a good thing and bad thing. It really depends on the customer's preference. But at least, you know, you're getting slight difference in each different batches. Okay, but any questions so far?
Yes.
Yes.
So you were talking about the tasting profiles. Where would you rank this champagne with the Eau d'Aube champagne in this price range? In terms of tasting profile.
Where would I rank this compared to? Well, the thing is, I think it's hard to say because it's all about it's all about the grapes they use. Of course, the sub-regions within Champagne and all that. But I think the craftsmanship, that they put in to the champagne really, you know, is all about this because as I said, you know, the first press, you know, I think, you know, that's not what a lot of brands would use. You know, I mean, with the same brand, they have first press like Tête de Cuvée, but they also have different, you know, pressings that they would use. But for Armand de Brignac, you know, from the Brut Gold all the way to Blanc de Blanc, Blanc de Noir, is all about, you know, the first press. And also, you know, like I mentioned, the sage they use is all about, you know, it's all about the cost that they put in. So I think at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, when you taste it, and you know, this is where you can feel the difference of, you know, how it compares to other, you know, so-called, you know, prestige brands. Yeah.
So I have one question.